We are live. So, welcome to round one of February Thursday Nighter. We are very lucky to have Nubair back this week. Welcome, Nubair.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
So, we got 8 boards tonight, mix of Premier Section and Open Section. So, yeah, we'll get right into the games.
All right. And we already have a result on the top board. Dan won against Jahan on the top board. And it was an IMS1 Indian defense. Let's have a quick look at that. And then we have all the games going more or less. So in this game, it was an IMS1 Indian defense, as I said. And they were following a typical theory, more or less main line. Here, black can take and go d5. This is also a possibility, which could have simply equalized. Or even d5 is also fine, more or less. Castling is also okay, but I mean, next move you have to play this. But here he played b6, and this is
Just
where the problem started.
before we get too far into
For
it, let me give one interesting dynamic here. So, we got Dane against John. Dane was John's coach for a long time. And Dane John himself plays e3 Nimzo, so they probably studied
Mhm.
this position together, or maybe not this position specifically, but so yeah,
But
we got
similar
that.
structures.
We got the coach versus former student, but also John is really increasing in rating lately. He's gained a lot of rating, and so Dane has traditionally kind of gotten the better of John in most of their games, but it's kind of getting to the point where John should be upsetting Dane, or maybe not even upsetting him because he's getting a similar rating. So they're getting a lot more competitive. So it's an interesting matchup.
Yeah, definitely. And here, this was a kind of a mistake because this allowed white to play d5, and then somehow, like the idea of b6 is to get the bishop to b7 or a6 in some terms and use bishop on the diagonal, but then white simply blocks the diagonal with d5. And now you don't have time to capture here because king is not on e1 anymore and it's not a check. So white maintains the pawn on d5. Now, if white wants, he can simply play e4, e5 ideas or even d6 as in the game. And now this is not that great. Also, the bishop is trapped. The a3 rook b1 b4 idea is going to create problems for black. And that's what happened in the game, I think. And after this, black was not able to save a piece here. A6. Usually knight is on c6, and sometimes black can save b4 temporarily, and then white has to play queen f4, and then at least black gets rook and a pawn in return of two pieces, and some ideas like this. But in the current position, because black allowed d5 d6, in my opinion, it just lost for black because there's b4, and I don't see any difference. He tried to play a6 b5, but then black loses an exchange in the process. And also here, maybe you could have just captured on e8 or bishop e8. Uh, maybe queen e8 is better line. You do lose a pawn, but at least you will not be a rook down because in the game he just blundered, takes, and now knight c7. Now black is completely rook down. Okay, the knight is not coming back easily, but at the same time, black also cannot do much. There's no way to win this pawn. He can attack it, but not really win it. He tried putting some threats like knight h3, queen g5, but after f4, it was not much. Another sacrifice. This is a bit too much.
Yeah. What I'm noticing is he had a 10-minute think on knight g5, but up until that
Okay,
point, he was barely using any time. So
but Mhm.
I mean, it's maybe just an opening slip, but gotta be thinking in these games.
I can understand his decision. Anyway, his position is not that great, and okay, it's not a sacrifice. This hangs, but okay, black is just praying for something good to happen because the position is not so great. And look, again, he's sacrificing something and hoping that somehow this would work, but simply the king could go to e1 and but okay, maybe the point is if it takes f e5, queen g5, king f2, there's a queen h4 check. And now if he goes, okay, it's a perpetual, but if he goes to e1, the king will simply run away like this. Bishop d3 happened, he got the rook back, but now already he has lost so much material that I'm not sure about this move though. Maybe it works. takes, and the point is d7, and after bishop d3. Okay, first thing first, the queen defenseless. But after queen f5, it would be very, very difficult. And that's what happened in the game. And after check, king c1, black decides to resign because d8 is unstoppable. I think a good game
Got,
by
got
Zelda.
it. And it's coming with checks, so you can't even threaten queen e1 mate. You know, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
But
black does give a checkmate threat, but white just ends up doing it.
so was b6 the one move blunder, or was there something else?
Yeah. Also, not sure if we should call it a blunder or something, but definitely a mistake, a serious mistake, or we could say maybe a positional blunder because it allows d5, and that's what I was saying. Like you just play d5, and you're absolutely fine. Just capture, capture, play d5. You just don't give any chance. Like why to even allow d5 here? Because in even such lines, it's possible. Okay, it's controversial that how good or bad it is. We have this idea, and again, some checks, some in g5. Sometimes it's okay to allow, sometimes it's not, but better not to go into such any kind of lines and just play d5 directly, or the simplest way is just play like this. And okay, you're simply threatening to get an isolated pawn for white. And this is a typical position of Nimzo Indian. Or this also comes in the Karo Confiner botanic, which can be explained like this, and we get this position, this kinds of positions in Panabatonic from Khan. And here, okay, the main line is d takes c4, and then they try to play castle knight c6. And imagine, okay, black has played this in here. Any sort of mistake or something. It's just inaccuracy, or not even inaccuracy, but not so correct move order. Let's put it like this. So we get the same position in even in this. If knight f3, and now black captures and goes d5. So I think,
Well,
yeah, b6 is the something which costed black a point.
well, I can give John some advice for next game because I actually play Nimzo myself. I did some preparation against Dane, and Dane
Mm-hmm.
really he prefers to play bishop d3 and knight f3. He doesn't like to
Yeah.
he doesn't like to play knight ge2. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing to know about Dane. And then another thing to know is I don't think he likes playing against Hubner because that's what I play. We played it in a training game, and then he didn't repeat it against me in any other games. We played some anti Nimzo. So just playing bishop takes c3 and d6 e5. I mean, you might I'm not sure if this is the exact right move order, right? But it's a solid way to
Yes,
play, and that's the way I like to
it's
play.
possible.
So,
Mhm.
but go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely possible to play like this. You can capture and go e5, but it is recommended you capture on c3 when white plays a3 or something like that. Because then, okay, for example, you can play d6, and this is still fine because after d5 you can capture, capture, and go knight e7. And okay, that is playable. It might be not so great position again because white has the center control, and a bishop g4 you can play. And again, white is preferable, but at least the d6 is not coming, or it is not as bad as it was in the game. So maybe just, I mean, when the positions like this, it makes more sense to just go d5 and just go for the main line. Like you have to capture those pawns and play like we play typical Nimzo. But also, there's no need to play knight c6. I mean, you can just play d5 here, or make a castle, or and just go d5 on the next move. Because many times we saw that knight c6 d5 was coming. So why to play knight c6 if, because anyway white is gonna play this or that, both will protect the d4 pawn. So in that case, what's the point of playing knight c6? Sometime maybe the knight is useful in on d7 in some lines where you are trying to put bishop on b7. So first castle and just go d5, I think is the best way to play this kind of setups in Nimzo Indian.
So I got one question for you because in a lot of my prep, sometimes I do take on c3 unsolicited, but usually they've always
Mhm.
put a knight on f3. So it's like I know I'm going to get to use the e4 square. They're not going to be able to play f3, control that square,
Mhm.
and so then that fractured structure, so especially even for knight f3, up against 4 knight f3, I played. I don't know why, but the variation I picked when I made my prep a long time ago was I play bishop takes c3 immediately, and that must be at least decent because I mostly did it based on master games. So why
Yeah,
why
this is
after like
that's
4 knight f3 can you play bishop takes c3 unsolicited, but when you usually have to wait for a3?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible to play. It's not like a big mistake or something. But when your opponent not threatening anything, it makes no. I mean, you should not capture in general because, uh, like it's against the positional principles. Like if no one is attacking you, why you are like suddenly capturing it? So there's just no need. That's the point. And there are better moves like Black can make. He can castle. He can improve the other piece placement or develop play d6, d5, or something. So that's the reason why this move is not being played at the top. But yeah, maybe some guys does not like that white plays this and then they have to capture and it gets equalized. So if you want to have unbalance and if you're okay of playing, slightly bad position, like it's plus equal, it's not bad for black. And
Mm-hmm.
you can play like this also. It's absolutely fine. We have seen Fisher playing like this. Uh, we have, I mean, if even if you study the book My Memorable 60 Games by Bobby Fischer, I think we can learn a lot about Nimzo Indian structures. Again, there's My System by Aaron Nimzovich. So these are like the basic books and let's say the classical books, which can help us to play the Nimzo Indian better. And of course, there are many, many modern books and stuff like that. But simply, um, if we study these two classical books, we understand at least what are the do's and don'ts. So I
Yeah.
think a must-read books for any Nimzo Indian player.
So it's pretty inflexible, even if like it's not the worst in all conditions.
Mhm.
Makes sense.
All right. So let's go to the next game where, okay, a corner is playing against Thomas. This is the live polls. Thomas down to 20 minutes. And corner has held the 1 hour.
Yep, we can see these guys on video.
And let's see how we reach this position. So it was Spanish. Roy Lopez and corner played F5, G3, takes knight F6, knight C3, bishop B4, castles. Okay, takes. And yeah, now this structure we can see that and now it's important to take because in this position, if you do not take, then let's say you play castle, white is simply threatening to play knight d5. And now suddenly there's a double attack and some uncertainty because if you take this, it's a blunder already. G just captures and white wins a piece. So in such cases, when like white is giving a threat or something or it's a problem, it's better to take. And also it destroys the structure permanently. Now all the pawns are, I mean, isolated. And okay, you can make castle or d6. Queen e7, bishop g5, bishop d7. Also, many times the idea is just to go like this. A classical idea. He didn't go for that. He just went castle, which is also absolutely fine. King h8, c4. And that is why, I wanted to get this done before because now suddenly there's a c5 coming in. You have to play b6 and then you have to make some concessions. Now c3, queen f7. Maybe he just wants to go queen g6 or queen h5 next.
So are you already liking black because of the structure, or what do you think the evaluation is?
Definitely. I'm liking black. I would have even loved it better because if you would have played like this, because only thing white has in return is the bishop pair, and if I could eliminate the bishop pair, I mean, black is just simply better. Like no questions asked. Like everyone could understand that the structure is bad, and if you and if you remove the double bishops, then okay, clearly black is better. After that, black is also threatening knight c5, knight f4 ideas apart from attacking the bishop. So and maybe, I mean, not so sure, but maybe someday even it's possible to make a long castle and just attack on the king side because f file is open. We could easily get h6 g5, and I don't see this pawns going anywhere forward. I mean, there are hardly any pieces or minor pieces on the king side even to sacrifice. So it just gives more flexibility to black. Maybe he could have done, but maybe he was not so sure about takes, and something like this coming. But at some point he could have played knight d8. I believe, let's say even here it was possible, and there is no. Oops, sorry. There is no, let's say, bishop f6, g f6. Black can just play rook f6, and okay, for c4, knight is coming in time, and this gives black a very good position with all the attack coming in. And if you play g3, okay, it's a long-term weakness. You have got this. No time for knight f2. This hangs. Maybe knight c5 first also possible. Knight d4 is also possible. So many many possibilities here.
Yeah, this whole idea reminds me of a saying I like called uh, "give nothing, take everything." It's like kind of a GM mindset I heard from Stoenberg Hansen, and it's basically, I'm not going to engage in any trades, not like you get this advantage, I get that advantage. I'll give you this advantage and you give me that advantage. No, I don't do any of that. I'm not giving you any advantages. I'm just going to give you no advantages and I'm going to take whatever you give me. And so even though Connor already had a good position with the pawn structure, thinking to himself, well, what is White's last hopes? His bishop pair. So let me just trade one of those bishops, and then he has nothing. He has a bad structure, and all my pieces are working. So, but anyways,
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, so in the game we saw c3 queen f7 and oh, I don't like this knight yet. Like, why you would go here? I mean, I know, I understand you want to go here or here, but White will never take this because White wants to improve the structure and it will just remain like this. For example, he just went back and he's playing waiting game. He just wants that Black to take the Black red at 6, and now he has to move the bishop, and then the knight will come here. But simply he's wasting like 2-3 moves which he would have achieved in a very simple way.
it's kind of a bit of hope
Now
chess.
c5, interesting pawn sacrifice. And a6 bishop a4 bishop a2. He's just dropping one after another. The point was if you capture it directly, then there was c4. And Kona was very tactically accurate here, getting 2 pawns. It looks almost winning to me. Yeah, even if you play knight
Yes.
b6 and there's no counterplay.
Yes. If you had to describe Connor's playstyle in 2 words, I would say tactically accurate is how I would describe it. I mean, not that he's perfect, but that's how he wins a lot of games.
Yeah, but here he allows somebody to counterplay, allow
Okay.
attacking these pawns. Maybe, I mean, NB6 is possible here, but again, some kind of a takes, and we have queen a1, and it's hard to defend this pawn unless you go back, or some tactical, if you figure out some tactical ideas. Maybe it works, it wins, knight c4 wins on the spot, and a5 is threatened next. If he captures, okay, we save the pawn. But the better would happen maybe just simply, not allowing any kind of. Uh, so we saw this, knight b1, and maybe some kind of knight b6 here. But and the point is, after knight c4, we have got this beautiful knight f4 intermezzo, attacking the rook, and the knight cannot be saved. So maybe he missed that. Many times we hesitate to give the bishop, but practically he could have found this idea. And after the bishop moves, okay, he's just fine. So, but okay, what he played is also fine as long as he finds knight b6. But I think in the game it was not played. He just captured. And allowing some counterplay. Okay, some sets here.
I see queen. I'm seeing the video feed. Queen takes a6 is coming.
Yeah, because this is really hard to save. This pawn you cannot really save. And you are just giving one of your pass pawns, which could have easily queen in the endgame. So definitely not the correct way. I mean, giving up so much material. So I'm wondering why knight c4. Okay, knight c4, knight g3 is a problem. That is why bishop d5 was played. Capture, capture. Knight b6, and very soon we will witness the a6 pawn hanging. But okay, this is too much. He lost all the pawns in the process. So now it's like 3 pawns down for white. Yeah, and Thomas is thinking here, probably it's just game over. Yeah, good game by Connor so far. Let's move to the next one,
Perfect.
where Robert is playing against Miles.
Yep. I'm sure we're gonna see a crazy Robert opening as usual.
And we already have a rating of 5. I don't know what to call it. Rating versus Dutch, maybe.
Yeah, Robert, the giving us good content each week.
Mhm. And then we have some mix and some Benoni mix in it with unusual replies from White.
Yeah. Well,
My
White
gosh.
White likes to play Nimzo Larson structure every game, so he's probably definitely out of his comfort zone. Can't get his usual knight f3 b3.
This is already probably, bit like too many games these days, like around how many games we can say. Mega database, there are like more than 10 million games. And but still Robert finds, move 5, move 6 novelty. Like we have so many games played by all types of players in the years, those many years.
Yeah.
We have so many online games, but still Robert finds to get novelties in just
Well,
like 5 of the points.
I wonder if any geniuses can successfully prep against Robert. I mean, just you got to get F5. You got to get F5 in every position. He's gonna throw that F pawn. Come on. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
even though he's got his novelties, they're predictable though. We could do it.
yeah, the best way, I'm sorry, Robert, but this is gonna help your opponents. But the best way to, prepare against Robert is not to prepare any specific line, but only just to understand the C5 F5 structures. If you understand these structures and what are the Robert's ideas behind this, you will just, have you will just get it done. So do not prepare any specific line or opening, just try to understand what Robert wants with C5 F5. And very soon, anyway, whatever opening you play, he will ruin something, he will weaken his king. For example, this game he allowed like all not allowed, but weaken his king to so much extent that it was looking very, very dangerous. For example, now look, even if you capture and get knight d6, it's not good for black. But he also gets knight b5, knight d6, and there are so many tactical possibilities that white maybe just got confused. And look how much time this is, like move 10, and miles have burned like 1 hour. It's down to 34 minutes. So this many chances he's giving. So you will get your chance, guys. Just you need to be patient. Okay, what? Blended queen? Oh wow. But he lost the queen. What's the fact?
Yeah.
This. Yeah, he could have repeated here once. And maybe then simply, Miles could have changed the line, or he has got so many options. But instead, Robert
Robert
thought
doesn't like
for,
to repeat. No repeats for Robert.
yeah, but he just thought for 10 to 11 minutes to blunder a queen in a simple knight fork. Like he just got two pieces.
I,
If he gets three pieces, I understand the decision.
it was there's no way that was a blunder for him. It was a sacrifice. It was still a blunder, but you know he saw that
Yeah, but
this is his style. He'll take an equal position, just sack a piece, just to get some dynamics, any dynamics.
getting dynamics is okay. Playing c5 is also okay. Not comment anything about on that. But if you do not have queen, I mean,
He's like, no queen, no problem. Let's see what you're gonna do, buddy.
no comments on this.
Oh yeah, I'm 0-1 against Robert myself, so I got nothing to say.
And look, the way Miles played after that, it justifies Robert's sacrifice. At least now he got something to play for. He has got this weakness which is happening. This king is bit weak. But let's see this position at the beginning when he got the queen, and it was just game over more or less. Like c4 simply or something like that.
Okay,
You
so
just play normal
C4
chess,
to
and
prevent
when
D5. So D5 is the
yeah, or
big
you just
consolidating move.
yeah, also did not allow knight d5 or stuff, and everything is good. Like there was just no need to play g4, and then he plays this. The knight d5 comes, now the bishop is hanging, the pawn is hanging, the king is weakened. Imagine someday if knight comes to f3, black will have some real counterplay, and which is not very far. Like the knight just can come like this someday.
So yeah,
A6, knight f4, and already he's not doing anything. Already the knight c6 is on the board. He could have even captured here, but maybe he didn't want to chew one. Didn't want to do chew one, so he just went like this. And now, yes, definitely. Now he has got two bishops and two pawns in the center. So definitely now, for the first time in the game, Robert can say he has a real compensation. Even now, I will take black because this is looking very, very good. White cannot castle short, red cannot castle long. The king is just stuck in the middle, and hence Miles had to sacrifice one other pawn. But Robert refuses to take it. Why?
he's gonna sack another piece at some point in this game. He needs to continue the
But
path.
he can grab a pawn, right? It's okay. He just goes back and allows h5 for no reason. Like allowing this counter, I mean, it's just a free pawn. Like people play like bishop g5, rook f4, so that the opponent does not play h4 and lose material. But then white plays h4, and Robert thinks it's inferior to take it because he would castle or something. Then maybe you can just take like this, and it's just fine. Like you make double, you attack this pawn as well. Okay, you don't take the f2 pawn. I understand you don't want to hurry her so much. Okay, just develop your pieces, get the rook, get the knight, as we just as discussed. And okay, black is just winning here. But instead, he just goes back and allows this. He's hoping for some ideas here, but it's just to check. And and yeah, now we realize that okay, for no reason, these weaknesses are being created, and there's nothing much now he can do. Okay, there's one cheap threat here. He can put rook g4. He did play that. So if you capture, there's a rook g1. But anytime, he can just capture on e4, let's say. Imagine position like this, and or king h8, and he can maybe capture somebody here. The point is, if rook e4, we just capture like this, and if you capture like this, we can capture like this. The main idea is to sacrifice the rook now to get the glory there, because now this is unstoppable. This is hanging, and also if the check comes from the dark square, it's game over. So maybe something like this was also an idea which he could have considered. But in the game, we saw g7, king h8, and is this the game or is it just my analysis? This is the game. Wow, nice. He did find bishop e4. Excellent. That's why it was important to take. Oops, sorry. It was
Yeah.
important to take king takes h7 so that you don't lose bishop directly. And okay, if something like queen e3, you go like this, and still white cannot castle or go here because it's illegal. But instead, he just went king h8 without thinking. He just thought for a few seconds, not even like half minute, and went king h8, leading into this sacrifice played by Maltin just in 2 minutes, because maybe he has already spotted it. And after that, now again, it's very simple probably to just go king c2 and make double or something, but instead he went 23. Still, the idea is not so clear. Uh, and maybe now he can actually win a piece because now the rook is connected, but this is not really a threat because there's e5. And yes, he did lose the rook, and he had seen this queen f4, threatening a forced checkmate. Probably now the only difference is just to go like this. I
Come
don't
on.
see anything else.
Come on. How
But
can
the
White
sad
not?
part,
There's a pawn on h7. There's a rook on h6. Like how can White not be winning this position?
so this is winning only in this one way. This is a forced mate line. You give a queen f6 check and you win like this.
Well,
So
I'm
yeah, good
also
move by queen e3. But this would have been simpler. But okay, maybe he just wanted Rocket to win some all the material. Maybe Miles wanted to sacrifice now, because why should always Robert only sacrifice?
yeah, these guys want coins on the board. I mean, that's their ultimate motive. They know we're
Sure.
gonna analyze these games. They're like, we need to make it beautiful.
Absolutely. And now, okay, Robert trying his last hopes, giving checks. Okay, only more, maybe one more check, and then he will resign.
So you thought Robert was actually a lot better if he played
Oh,
like
wait,
rook takes h4
wait.
earlier.
There's a serious problem here. He can get 91 check. If king b2 there's a fork, so he must go king d2. And now the point is, because the bishop has been moved, we have one more check. And it's just a check, unfortunately, because after this we have got luckily there's more. Otherwise, it would have been game over for. But wait a second, missing something. There's a rook a2 as well. King e1. It's a perpetual. No, the king will just go away. Wait, so this check is forced. Or rook a2, this is lost. He must give a check, king e2. Rook a2, king e1, so he must give a check. King e2. Okay, bishop b5 with c4, and rook takes pawn, okay, just simply king f1. And rook f2, only thing you should not blunder is playing by playing king f2. You can just play queen f2 and you win it. And for all time this, you have odd c4. So you can simply win. Okay, you can also capture probably, it's not a problem. But the fastest win probably is king f1.
All right. Well, we can see why Nubair's an IM because most people would just be getting close to resigning here, just saying it's all over. But he says, wait, we got all these resources, we got to calculate them, and yet, okay, White's still winning, but at least we found all our resources. And sometimes when you do that process, you actually find a win yourself or a draw, and that's how you can get a lot of points.
Yeah, many times we end up serving it because we never know when opponent is playing king e3 or capture somewhere, or one wrong move and it's game over.
And nothing better than saying wait at the board in your own mind, saying, this is not going to go how he planned because I was suffering for a while, but just can all change in one move.
True.
All right.
Probably we'll see rook a2 and king f1 and bishop b5 c4, and then probably Robert will give up. But now he's thinking, but it's a bit late. He would have thought before doing all this.
Well, you said at one point you did prefer black, so I mean his queen stack was at some point justified.
Yeah, it got justified somehow, all thanks to Miles.
Yeah.
But
Well,
giving queen here was not definitely not the way.
yeah. Miles tactically sharp. No wonder he found bishop takes e4. But yeah, it seems like just going g4 g5 is a bit out there. I could see why he wanted to do it because he's up. He's got the queen. He wants like I want to get at that king before he gets any of his pieces developed. But I guess when you're up that much material, what I'm learning from your commentary here is just play normally, like prevent them from taking any more center over. Play the game as if you would play a normal game of chess and just use your extra material instead of
We just
engaging in dynamics, which is what your opponent's hoping for when they're down material.
absolutely. So it's very simple, guys. When you're upper material, you don't need to prove anything. You're already proven something. Something for that you got better position. Like you won one material because you did something. You did outplay your opponent. You did outcalculate him, or you did something nice or something correct as per chess principles. That's why you got extra material in the opening or at some point in the game. So after getting extra material, you don't need to prove again and again. You already proved that you played better chess, and now you just need to play. I don't know how exactly to say, but let's say just logical chess or a simple chess or simple trade, and just don't no, you don't have to do anything. It's your opponent who has to do something, create dynamics or create imbalance here and there because he's much really down. So once you win a queen, I mean just exchange pieces or just take the game towards the end game. But no need to weaken your king or something which will damage your king. And it doesn't also mean everything. I mean, it doesn't also mean that if you have queen, you can do everything or anything. We saw this game, white was trying to just push any random pawns, for attacking the knight, and then we saw black getting back into the game. White could not castle any side in the game, and here almost black was close to winning this. Like he just also got this pawn, and if he captures like this, I don't see a reason why white will be saving this because first of all, he has got two pieces for the queen. And apart from that, between 6 value, he has got three more pawns. F2 is about to fall. And simply the rook is coming like this. And above all, white has zero activity. He has zero weaknesses to attack against the black. Apart from that, knight is also getting activated very, very in nice way. So for all these reasons, black is simply better in my way, or I prefer the compensation which black have in this position instead of taking white.
And d5 just kind of creating that boomerang is pretty nice. So that was just a big threat to see. Like, can't let the opponent take over the center, even if you're up a lot of material. But yeah, nice, interesting game though.
Yeah. And it has ended. We saw this game ending at this point.
And Miles did close it out. So Robert played a little too crazy, but
Yeah, he designed.
gave us an interesting game nonetheless.
We also have a result with Connor winning here. We saw this game until this point, and
Yeah.
it was almost like after we saw this position, it was like 4 points, 3 points down to okay. Yes, I understand knight f4 is coming, but if you play g3, it's even worse because you just make your bishop like worst is even a bad word to say for that bishop. So I don't know how to say this, but
It's
better
entombed.
not to do it. Just don't do this.
It's a never, never entomb your own bishop.
Yeah, I mean, okay, you want to play G3, okay, capture and then you play G3. At least, you capture one knight. But if you play like this, you just play a piece down.
Yeah. Yeah, he's already going through the motions. He's down 3 pawns, right?
And he resigned here because after D5, knight needs to be moved and we have two hands.
All right. Well,
Okay, so
Connor off to a hot start like usual. All right. Yep. And we got
going off, yeah.
Ronan against Nathan. Yep. Both. I'm sure these guys have played a ton of games. And Ronan had a pretty strong event last month,
Uh-huh.
playing on the top board. I think in the final round. So
Let's see this game. It was a Bobo Indian. Okay, I'd say three bishop b7, queen c2, d5. Okay, now the idea of white is to play e4 in general. So it makes sense to play d5, but then black replied with c5. This move is also fine because, uh, but now d5 comes, right? Takes, and knight d5 is queen e4. Queen e7. So it's not possible, I believe. Yeah, it's not possible. Takes, the pawn to knight d5. You think that, okay, you win a material because if knight goes back, these are knights. But there's a beautiful queen e7 here, and you don't have time to capture here. Unless you are Robert and decides to sacrifice a queen.
Yeah, you can't even get a full rook because bishop defends it.
But white did play e4, following his plan of queen c2. And that is why it's better to play d5 so that you don't give your opponent chance to play this. And now more or less black got forced to play the Maruzi structure, which is not so great these days. Again, f3 was not needed because you already defend the pawn. Maybe something like bishop e2, bishop e3 castle would have been better option. Yeah, sometimes this move is useful and we do play f3 in Maruzi structures. But for example, this kind of position where you already played queen c2, it makes no sense to play f3 because you give chance black to d5 and now very quickly black could get better because the king is in the middle. The bishop would could be get dangerous and things could go wrong very quickly. I know there are some checks and maybe white will not have any troubles, serious troubles. But there are some pins which you don't like. There are some captures which you will not favor because you just make isolated pawn in the center and it's not great in general. So do not play f3 like this. Just
So
play bishop e2.
got bishop e2.
Actually, honestly speaking, the queen is a bit misplaced here. So not really sure whether e4 is correct or c5 is wrong. But both are like so correct. Usually they play a3 and d5. This is one of the main lines here. And they want to prevent this bishop b4 and the point is you cannot really play c5 because then there's a d5, so they have to play d5. This is the point, and okay, sometimes they play like this, or they can play just like this, and some kind of we get the queen's gambit kind of a structure. But okay,
I've
we
heard
saw
this.
queen
I've heard this d5, b6, bishop b7 structure is trendy to play against one knight f3 to be like really hypercritical.
Yeah, it's quite solid, and we saw this Queen's Gambit being played at the World Championship matches since early, uh, even 19th century, we could say. So this is like a World Championship match opening and classical opening, which is still being played at the top. We do see all the top players. We saw many games in Queen's Gambit at Tata Steel. This was being played by Prague. It was being played by Anish, and it was being played by many players. Even Gukesh has played it multiple times. And one of the classical openings, which you can play always as a black, and it's really hard to break this Queen's Indian or Queen's Gambit, whatever you call it. This came from Queen's Indian or into Queen's Gambit, so it's it's quite rich and possible to play. But yeah, if you get into this Maruti structure, I'm not really a big fan nowadays. It used to be one of the main lines or weapons during the Kasparov Karpov World Championship matches. And that time it was okay to play such kind of openings because there were no engines to tell that all those positions are slightly better for white or black cannot really do much if white knows the structure or white plays patiently and improves. But okay, still the argument goes on and many players fails to prove the advantage for white in practical play. And many times even we see grandmasters playing this structure, just playing it calmly. So it has certain pros and cons, and it all depends upon the positional strength of the players.
Yeah, my current I play Open Sicilian myself, and my current knowledge about when white can get good versions of Meraxi is in two circumstances. If they play Hyperstellar Dragon 2g6, that's the classic way to get it. And then the other way I know about it is anytime they play a6. So if they play O'Kelly or if they play Khan, anytime
Yeah.
they play a6 that without playing Najdorf. I mean Najdorf you can of course, but if they play an early a6, that's your green light to play c4, and that makes positional sense to me because they're wasting time playing a6, so you can waste time playing c4, and they're not going to be
That,
able to break down your center versus Any other Sicilian, you can't just a lot of times people try to just get the Maraxi, and it's like you can't just do it against like a two knight c6 Sicilian. Like that doesn't work.
Makes sense. Yeah, and absolutely. And one more thing I would like to point out here is, I mean, these guys did play like Karpov, Kasparov, but they just forgot to put the pieces on the correct square. So basically, like, there's no reason why you do. I mean, okay, he did play Rook to all the squares and then went to C8. And Agam also, I don't know what he did. He just played Queen everywhere else and went to A2, which is wrong. So I'll just tell the ideal places for the rooks. So if you're black, if you're playing Marzipan as a black, irrespective of whatever Sicilian is coming from, guys, put your rooks on C8 and E8. So the A rook should be on C and the F should be on E. This is the ideal placement for the rooks. Okay, he did put his queen correctly on B8, but in current position it's terrible because he's playing a rook down. I'm using a little bit harsh words, but this is how it is been at the moment, present. If you keep pieces like this, then it's not good. If the same rook is on E8, then the position is perfect for black. And now what white has done wrong? Now white has kept this rook on F1. Like you play F3 and then you keep rook on F1. Then what's the point of like this? So the best place for rooks is of course D1 C1, which is natural. We just put rook here in a semi-open file, and then you put another rook in the slightly more than semi-open file, and you can put your queen on D2 and bishop on E3, or queen on D2 and bishop on D3 is also okay. But you should put your queen on D2. Now he did all this thing. So these are the mistakes made by white and black. This they could, I mean, if whenever guys you see this game, so try. It's okay. I mean, sometimes we know the opening, sometimes we don't know the opening, but we should always know the piece placement and the key squares where the minor or the major pieces belong. Otherwise, they lack the connectivity between them, and we see piece hanging or some tactic coming in. So, okay, good move. Rook E8 is trying to improve. B4, and this is the live position. Ah, okay, this is the live position. But why? Okay, and we don't have timings here, so
Yeah, something's wrong with the clock, but we are getting move updates at least. But
yes,
yeah,
it's better
that's
to. I mean, it's better to have no times instead of having wrong times. So
that's really interesting, and I actually learned a good amount about where all the pieces are ideally placed. And if you think about it, when you understand all those placements, then you can really see, okay, well, they misplaced this piece, so then let me play around that in this way, and that's how you can kind of take your chess to the next level. Like, so that's really interesting.
also sometimes possible to make doubles. But if you are making a double, then you should have a clear target or some way. But many times we simply see in black and the 95, and we cannot really attack the pawn. And the moment we play f4, then we lose up g4 square, and black starts taking over. But again, black needs to fix this first. I don't know how he's gonna make castle with the queen here, but he has to do it somehow.
So, question for you: Are you personally a hedgehog embracer or a hedgehog avoider?
Sorry.
Do you embrace the hedgehog and play it yourself, or do you try to avoid cramped positions?
I have played such positions. Um, at some point, I have played such positions with even black, and I have played such positions with white as well. So, so it's okay. Like it's a game, and you have to play well. Try to outplay here. So here, Nathan is trying to work out some tactics. He wants his opponent to take on h4, and then he wants d5, putting some pressure here. And the point is, he's trying to win a pawn. He's like threatening to win a pawn.
Interesting.
And the point is, imagine if the rook could have been on c8, it would have been very, very strong because after you take, you just end up winning a piece. And this is, and if it takes like this, okay, the e file anyway gets open, and at some point, like after 2 moves or 5 moves, for sure, even the c file will be open. Either white will take or black will take. For that reason, we need rook on c8, and white also needs rook on c1 because now this rook is doing nothing, so as this rook. But still, because black has managed to get one of the rooks to the correct square, we see that black is doing good because some pressure here. But again, there are so many options for white. He can play h3, and he might just try to open the f file, and we need to see like the dynamics are working for which side here. Because let's say, okay, if it takes, maybe just take. There are two options: takes, and we just try to exchange pieces and try to eliminate the bishop, or we just consolidate with queen c2 and, oops, sorry, queen c2, and We're just threatening to win a piece here. Maybe something like this is possible. Some knight g3s are possible. You cannot really take because then the f1 hangs. You have to capture. Okay, again, queen f3 is not so great because bishop f3 or knight f3 is there. And we need to see if tactics are working here or not. Like sometimes even moves like this are possible. Like it's a bit too much, I know, but suddenly queen h7 comes and rook f1, bishop h5 cannot be stopped. You do play f6, there's rook f1, and you need to be careful because suddenly all these pieces are not doing anything. So you need to be careful about such sacrifices. But simply 96 is also possible, winning the d7 knight. So lots of dynamics suddenly, and this needs to be calculated very well here. So probably Nathan must have thought about it, and he thought he has compensation, which he definitely has. Mhm. And now white needs to calculate the lines very carefully and select, because for black the play is going to be easier because he's threatening something and he has got a clear target to attack on these two diagonals. Whereas white queen is still being misplayed. Even if the queen could have been here, he would have simply remained pawn up. But just because of the wrong placement, now black gets a counterplay, and it's going to be an interesting game to watch out.
Yeah, that's really interesting how you pretty much just directly showed how the misplaced pieces would lead to improved tactics in all these different variations if they were properly placed. So knowledge leads to tactics.
Yeah, again, two options for black. Maybe you can just take on
just
h2.
just at a glance though, that looks like a pretty glorious pawn chain.
Yeah, because one more thing I just thought is like if he takes, and let's imagine he defends the pawn. There's no good way, honestly speaking, to defend it. Like j3 harms the bishop, h3 is also not that great. And suddenly I saw this bishop c4 idea, but then black is in time to get this knight e5. Okay, you might say this is hanging. Yes, it does hang, but then there's no other way to defend the f7. I mean, everyone, no one would like to go to f8 because simply capture. And now this is not possible to capture because the f1 attacks the f7 somehow. So he has to play 95 or something like that, I believe. But this does hang. Again, now black has two options, just to capture here, or just maybe remain calm and capture this. This definitely looks terrible, but if no one is to attack on your king, then it's fine. Fe4 is not that great. Okay, knight e4 maybe to attack this. Maybe he has to take. And yeah, looks like very good position for white, if not winning, because this is guys also misplayed. Like if this guy is here, you're already winning this position because knight c4, queen c4, and you give a check and game over. So it's all about now how these guys play. So c5 is being played. Maybe it's better to just capture the pawn first and find something like bishop e5 or bishop g3, because this will also bring the queen into the game. I know some problems there. You're losing a pawn, but if it brings counterplay, why not? Still, maybe white is fine. Some better move needs to be found. Can you capture like this? Maybe, yeah, this is the way. Just capture on h2 and capture on d5. And after capture, just go back or play bishop g3. And black is doing well here.
Dark square is looking weak.
Yeah. So as we solve puzzles and we have a certain guideline, look for check, capture, set. We have to do exactly the same thing. We have to give a check, then we have to capture, and then we have to give a threat.
The triple
It has
combo.
just become like a, yeah. Also, we have got this queen f4, which is also a powerful threat, and the bishop looks awkward. And okay, now also again, there are two options in my opinion. You just try to simply keep it simple, or you try to keep it complicated to just create a checkmating mate. And knight e4 even maybe something like this is possible. Rook e4, or not yet. Maybe not yet,
Do you like to
because
keep?
in general, yeah,
Do you like to keep it simple, or do you go for the beautiful mates?
it's all about the calculation. If I found calculation is easier and clear, and if I see no difference from my opponent, I'll just go for it. because if I cannot also find something good for my opponent, it's also difficult for him to find because we both are humans, not because someone is better calculation. So if I could see it's difficult for my opponent to calculate or find a defense, then I'll just go for it. But I'll of course first try to look for the best possible defense for my opponent. And if I see the difference, or if I see I'm sacrificing a lot, or I'm giving so much material for just one idea, maybe not a great choice, then I would just maybe decide to keep it simple with bishop g3. So it depends upon certain circumstances, your opponent's calculation skills, the time on the clock, the format of the game, and the tournament situation sometimes.
Yeah, complex calculus around how much risk you take.
And also one more idea was to just which line we were looking at. In some line, this knight h5 came. Yeah, okay, so queen f4. And we bishop f2 and knight h5, yeah. And knight e4. Yeah, this I was talking about. So here also one more idea is to just go rook e5 and try to keep it simpler. And you just try to win like this. Okay, he has queen d2. And after rook h5, still there's no mate. He has, but probably this will end up winning somehow in some discovered checks like king g1. You again give a check, and surprisingly, I think he's hanging at the moment. You can only win a pawn here, which is also good enough maybe to win this game, because after you win the b4 pawn, the knight hangs. Knight needs to be moved, and then the d5 hangs, so black will be up a pawn. So let's see how it goes. So many options for both sides, and we have a move on the board. He played ed5, and this was not the right order in my opinion, because now it allows h3. And after d4, we saw this bishop c4 is strong, quite strong. So maybe he could have just simply captured first on h2 and then maybe gone for d5. Okay, it's complicated, so can't really complain. How about moving on to the open section?
Sounds good.
Okay, so we have two games finished. We'll come back to them later. And we have two games going on with 2 minutes here for Scott, who's playing against Kevin on board 2. Looks winning for Kevin because so many attack. I mean, he's attacking with all the pieces. So when you attack with all the pieces, checkmate is guaranteed.
Yep, and we got a knight and rook out of play.
Yeah. So this is going to be a checkmate. Okay, let's see this. I mean, I could see so many threats in one go. How all this came. So it's a Nimzo Indian day.
Oh, yep. Another e3 as well.
Yeah. We saw all the variations of Nimzo Indian today. Okay, we have not seen the 95 version. 85 would have been same thing, but okay, 95. So 95 is a bad move. It simply allows e4.
Nimzo semi-terrace hybrid.
Yeah. So e5 would have been a typical Nimzo Indian position where you can play rook here, knight d7 or c5 later on. Depends. But yeah, this would have been normal, or you simply go back as well. Depends on how white plays. But knight d5 is definitely a mistake, allowing e4, and now white has a center control. Again, like same thing. You don't need to play f3, like when you're already defending the pawn. You can just push e5 further or go queen c2. f3 will weaken the king, but okay. And this is again terrible. Like you should never take like this. Never ever. This is a big positional mistake. White just gets this, and then he has the dream center control.
And so if they play
okay, I understand.
Yeah, retreat bishop e7 if he plays a3. That was my question.
Yeah, just go back anywhere. Like just don't blunder, and play bishop. Okay, even then c5 is possible here, and some tactical ideas, because as I said, f3 is not so correct. It weakens the king, so he has weakened the king. So I think we should try to punish black on the this diagonal. And if a3, we have got some tactical ideas.
Yeah, and just going back for a moment, when he played knight takes, just trying to empathize with Scott. I think maybe he's thinking, well, if I play e takes is blocking my own bishop. What is my bishop doing? So how would you kind of answer that objection? I mean, he's giving up a lot of center, and the bishop still x-rays through to e4, but yeah, you are staring
Y-
at a pawn.
Yeah, I understand, but this is how Queen's Gambit is being played since not decades but centuries. And the point is very simple. Like White also does not take on d5 unless Black plays bishop d7. So White waits for it, and the moment the bishop cannot come from this diagonal, he takes. And that is the whole point of the White, that he wants Black not to get the bishop activated so easily or so soon. And yeah, it's okay. And the bishop is not doing bad actually. It is definitely behind the pawn and not a good bishop for sure. But calling it bad is also not correct because it can go back here in one move, first of all. Secondly, whenever Black can always play rook here at knight e4, and if some piece is contributing towards the center control or gaining center control or having some domination over the center, I think justifies even being behind, because bishop is someone which can, we call it a long range piece, a sniper. So it could just go in one move from this to that. And imagine if the something gets changed or exchanged at some point, the bishop would be deadly. So it's okay to have bishop like this. Yes, I understand it would have been better if it would have been open, but at the same time, you cannot really give center control. And in this case also it is blocked, but now it is badly blocked because it also now quite simply controls all the central squares. So for that reason, you should not play 95. There are lines in which you can play 95 when you said something seriously on c3 or seriously next move c5 is coming on the spot, but this is not the position where you should play 95 for sure. Even I was talking about a move uh, here f3 and okay, even if you're not sure about c5, you don't want to go on to e7, you can even play rook e8 and just go back to f8. Not a great choice, but still a better one than taking on c3. So even going back to f8 is better than taking on c3 is something I wanted to put up put some light on. That do not give bishop just like that.
Makes sense.
Okay, this is just terrible.
So everything's going White's way. Yep, and now he's just hitting backwards pawn on e6, check potentially. So it's just distinct weakness.
Yeah, f5 was like the final reason why black should lose this game.
Yeah, everything's
Like
going
when
right.
you,
That triple pawn chain's looking pretty nice too. I always like that when I get that in the Rossalimo.
yeah, it's beautiful. And the main reason for blacks getting into this position is it was black who decided to give his bishops. And okay, he like first mistake, he gave the bishops for no reason. Second big mistake was to open up the position, not just playing f5, weaken the king, but to open up the position when your opponent has two active bishops. He's opening from this side as well. He's opening from this side as well. So this is gonna harm. Also, there was no reason to take on f1. He could have just played queen g4, f3, queen h5, and continued the game. But he's also giving up the h file for no f file for no reason, leading into this position. So it was all like, imagine we had at this position. Oops, sorry, we had at this position, and he this position we had, and from here only he only played queen and some random captures to get into everything hanging by force. Like black held white so much that everything is coming under. Look, from there the rook came to h4, from knight came to d6, and the h7 is hanging. This was hanging before as well, but also everything under attack. And I think this game has ended. But he just resigned. What happened? Okay, it's not
Yeah,
getting
so
updated, but probably resigned.
I feel like especially with like the knight takes versus d takes decision, that's where you want to just be sitting there. You got to calculate both options, see what the resulting positions look like, and if you really are diligently looking at the resulting positions, you probably notice, hey, I don't like that huge center. I don't like this or that. But if you're just kind of playing things on vibes, one move, one move at a time, right? Like, oh, I want my bishop to get some activity, so I need to play knight takes because I need to keep my bishop open. But I'm not even thinking about what my opponent's going to play next, say in e4, take over the whole center. Not saying that was totally his thought process, but I could imagine that. You really got to think 2, 3 moves ahead and what's the resulting position going to look like and evaluate that. And you probably could have saved yourself some heartache in this game a bit.
Absolutely. But anyways, well played by Kevin. Good game. He took advantage of all the mistakes made by the opponent.
All right.
So this game also finished. This was also in time pressure, where John John just was up on time by a huge margin. Let's see what happened in the game. He was playing Norman Miring. It was Bishop's opening. So this is how they played. Capture, capture, 94, perfect. So far, well done.
Yep.
Okay, so now here, okay, until here it was perfect game, and now he plays a5, attack trying to win the bishop, and now unfortunately White has to play push the pawn. And after he plays this, it was simple just to capture the bishop, and this is the perfect time to ruin the White's pawn structure. But instead he played some a4. We do b5 if I not to trap the bishop or win the bishop by force. We do this just to get knight versus. We can just do that. We can capture the bishop with the knight. And here, okay, even if capture like this, it's okay. But here, luckily, you have got chance to trap the bishop, which will force White to play 3 or 4. And then it's better if you capture. And now, okay, you can just castle or castle. And okay, always f5, there's a d5. And Black is simply having a not so great, but better position slightly because of the bad pawn structure. So remember this thing. And now this bishop will hurt, at the end in this game. Just look. So he captures this. Now simply White has got 2 bishop advantage. And no challenger left for this bishop. G6, F5, and now look. Simply is creating weaknesses, and now the bishop will go h6. Okay, even honestly speaking, if you play bishop h6, game over in 2 moves. Rook moves, capture, and if you play knight g7, even f6 is there. And bishop f6, you can simply make double, and the f7 hangs.
So rook
Okay, there
move.
are many options, like even to take like this and keep it very, very simple. Yeah, play rook f7, not yet. But yeah, very soon I would be able to play rook. Okay, everything is hanging. Or even queen g4. But instead he played some queen f3, allowing bishop g5. And anyway, black lost the f7 pawn. He did not capture. Maybe the point is after capture, king g7, the bishop cannot come back. And after if the queen moves, then the c1 hangs. But I'm pretty sure there's a tactical way here. So simply there's a queen g4, and if you capture rook f7, we have got bishop g5. If you capture c1, it's game over. But he missed this tactic. So the right way was just to get bishop h6 and this. And he missed this thing. Come on. Okay, everything was winning almost. To capture this and this must be simple, but here even this also wins. This is simplest I do because you capture
Yeah.
all the pawns. And I think everything is simple only. It's up to the choice of the players.
Yeah. Taking on
He did
g6 pawn
sacrifice.
pin is pretty much puzzle rush, but it is a mix. You know, we got a big variety of players. Everyone's not grinding their puzzles every week, so it does make sense where we see some of these bigger misses because they're just showing up to their weekly game, playing their game for the most part.
And this is where Norman decides to resign because so many threats and so much down on material. But yeah, a good game by John. And of course, the mistake by Black was just not capturing the bishop, and the reason why he lost the game. This would have been never been strong. Never queen of g6 would have been never come. Any tactic would not have been possible without this bishop. So it was very simple. You capture the bishop and leave and play a nice game. So one mistake, not capturing the bishop, and game over.
Yeah, I feel like whenever they go for these bishop c4, knight c3, or especially just knight c3, they're gonna play for f4 because they can't play for c3 d4 anymore. So
Yeah,
that's what I think is the downside of playing like this as white is like black. It's just so predictable. Let me just calculate the Grand Prix plans and make sure that f4 f5 isn't working every single move, and I can almost turn my brain off. Besides making sure that that plan doesn't work. Obviously not that simple, but Because I was thinking of playing some similar type openings myself. Maybe playing. Well, before I decided to dive into Rui, it's like, oh, what can I do against e5? Well, maybe I can play like knight c3, two knight c3, three bishop c4. But then I'm just going to be playing for Grand Prix plans every single game, and it's a way to play. But it's not that ambitious.
Yeah. So shall we move to the next one
Yeah,
between Daryl and Mish?
yeah. This one looks like a tragedy because I swear I looked earlier and Mitch was up 2 pawns.
Mhm.
Let's see what happens.
So we have finally, okay, we don't, I thought we have a slow difference, but no, it's going into Queen's Gambit. And we have a proper Queen's Gambit this time. The most popular line or the classical line of Queen's Gambit, main line of Queen's Gambit. And okay, here black can simply take and play knight b7 c5 ideas. Because again, like, I mean, for example, this is the moment you should just take. Because if you don't take, then your opponent would take. And again, if you, okay, here you can play knight d5 because the bishop luckily hangs. And after capture, you can play queen d5, bishop b5. But in general, I'm sorry, if you play bishop b7 and if you get this position, then it's slightly better for white because the bishop is behind the pawn. And okay, white can just simply, sorry, play like 95, castle and stuff. So when you get chance, I mean, it makes sense to we can capture and then get c5 because there's no e4 coming in. White still needs to castle. And at least here, white should have played takes. But instead, Mish played rook e1. Black also did not capture here, surprising. Because the best way to equalize is simply take, and go c5. He played knight e4. Okay, fair enough. Possible option. And simply now he got f5 because white was not. And now white did not play queen c2 in the beginning. Usually we see queen on c2 in all the queen's gambit. But here instead white went for a new plan, allowing knight e4, and black got a decent position to play on.
That queen b3 looks a little suspicious to me, but
Yeah,
we'll
it's not
slice.
great. You play queen c2 and then queen b3. Knight g5 takes. He did manage to get rid of the knight, but the other knight came in. So one goes, another comes in.
Feels like you'll eventually get to. It looks glorious, supported by 2 pawns, but you'll eventually get to kick it with f3, right?
Yeah. And okay, again, you have to play kind of f3, e4 here to get better. But he instead played e4 now, which this is more or less a draw or equalish positions. We do have some weakness here, but imagine he plays rook d8 and you also got f6 to defend, d4 to defense. The queen would come to f6, attacking both the guys. So it's going to be a draw here and there to trade off pieces and go into equal rook endgame. Okay, he went for some other ideas, rook c8, c5. And yes, we go into queen endgame in the end. And this is slightly not better version, but more or less equal only. Okay, if he plays rook c2, it just maybe it's black who is actually pressing for something here because maybe not, but as they say, like all rook endgames are drawn. But still, I somehow feel black is slightly better because he has got the rook on the 7th file, and the moment the rook comes to any of this file, it will look very, very strong. So instead, black just played rook d8, trying to create this as a pass pawn. The simplest way here probably is to just take, and get the king somehow. Because he cannot really push rook d1 will get the pawn. And let's say he plays anything else, you can play like rook e4 and the king will come like this. And for d3, okay, you just block the pawn like this and win it. So this would have been the right approach from white side. But we saw what we saw. Again, we saw takes, king f2, rook e4, king f6, king a2. We saw all this. And now this is just winning for white.
Yeah, here's where I saw he was up. I thought he was up 2 pawns at one point. That looks like just one.
Can he play rook d6 and rook h6? This is a bit controversial because you go back, rook h6, you do win these pawns, but you also end up losing this, and it becomes a race. Like then who is faster? Maybe just take is fine. And something like a4 is needed here. and you just go up with the king like this, or like this if he plays a6. Something like this was simple plan here, or just start moving the
And
king.
and you're not worried about their king coming into your kingside pawns.
Yeah, because you defend everything on this first 7 turn.
Yeah,
So
you got the rook
you
defended.
got one extra, and also you got one extra pawn. So
But
it's generally
you're
not
not
a
worried. What
problem.
about the king coming to g3 and then him playing rook g1? You're not worried
Yeah, but
about
by the
that.
time you will also reach, you will also get f4, and the thing is, after capture, you will win first. So you just have to get this pawn move one square forward, and it's a pawn race, right? And you will also have that thinking. Maybe he thought the same idea with keeping pawn on g3, but in that case, he can just attack the pawn in two moves. Like the moment you play king e3, okay, he just blundered here. He just blundered with h5. If5 is a blunder, like, and this is just dead loss now. Like it's a 2 point down. Black can resign here, honestly
But
speaking. Okay, we just need to play e3.
Black somehow won this, so I'm
I mean, the credit goes to mesh.
like, let's see what
There's
happened
just no
here.
way. I mean, okay, there's only one
This
side black can do.
this is going to be an example of why you never resign.
Yeah, maybe this, he allowed this, and even this he cannot win. I mean, if even if he loses all the pawns, it's a draw. It's a theoretical draw, even if he loses all the
So
pawns.
he's probably going to get. Okay.
Come on. Okay, I mean, how can you lose this on earth? Like takes, and this pawn is hanging. There's just no way you defend this. I mean, you just capture the pawn, h4 pawn. You capture back. He goes. You go anywhere on the. I mean, you go anywhere, no problem. You capture a pawn and you are winning this. You are 2 pawns up. Like
All right. What's
there's
this?
just no pass pawn for
You're
black.
you're show me what happened here. What would happen?
And even he's not capturing this pawn. Like this is the only way to make a draw. Black is not capturing. Black has 30 minutes. White has done more than an hour. And I don't know what they're playing. Like GH4. Okay, you captured. How can you win this position? Okay, the only thing is we can render is you're allowing the check and he's winning.
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
put your king on f5, push f4, and you're winning this again. You just need
Okay,
to play
that's
f4
what's
here.
gonna happen
A2.
though. He's gonna queen win the rook and then win all the pawns.
You play king g5 and h5. So
Yeah,
careless.
yeah. H5. H5 is super careless. Come on, that's it. You gotta you gotta blunder check.
Even if you play king f4, you win this.
Mm.
Just get your king anywhere, 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 just behind the pawns.
But I am studying with
What's
Mitch.
the
I do want to plug a study group we got going on. So lately, I've been solving puzzles with Connor, the usual Premier Section winner, and Mitch, and we've been solving Think Like a Super GM by Michael Adams. So I think we're 8 puzzles into that book, and we're solving them on Discord. So any other viewers of the channel, if you guys want to join us, you can email me at chesscastlelive@gmail.com, or else you can just talk to Connor or Mitch at the club and let them know you want to join us, and we can solve some puzzles. Improve our tactical acumen so this doesn't happen to Mitch again.
that's great initiative. So do join, guys. It's a great opportunity to solve with Mickey Adams.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting book where after each problem, it has a bunch of players of different ratings, how they solved the problem,
Mhm.
going all the way from beginner up to super GM. Michael Adams solved them all himself and gives his thought
Mhm.
process. So it's pretty fun to solve in a group. We all give our thought process on what we think the answer is. We read all the different ratings answers, and then we see the correct answer, see who got closest to being a super GM. So
When it's going to be held?
we just are. It's kind of ad hoc. So if you're interested, let us know. Been doing it weeknights around 5 to 6 p.m. kind of after work
All right.
for an hour.
So-
Not
Yeah,
not every
sounds good.
weeknight,
It's
just
good.
intermittent weeknights when we agree on it.
All right. Do we have one more game going on? We have all the 7 results. We have one game, sorry, going on between Agam and Hoover, and we have got some crazy updates in this game. Let's just see what happened after we left. So we did okay. So they end up getting the same position instead of playing h3. Agam just took on d5, and he got black gets the dream position. Bishop s2 king h1 and queen f4. which we were discussing. And now we have a G4. Now this is hard to explain, honestly speaking. You should not open up your king like this in general, but
He's worried
he
about queen
does. And the
takes
simplest way
h4.
to win here is maybe just play rook c8 and just hit on c3, and then just you play knight d5, knight e3, or bishop g4. You do anything, like you just sacrifice everything. You need to be Robert here. You need to play like Robert. Just hit on c3, g4,
Fine.
d5. You checkmate.
Finally getting his rook to the correct square on move 25.
Yeah, but he did not play that. I think he played. Okay, he did play. Yeah, he did play. He played rook c8, bishop d3, and okay, threatening to win a bishop. Now the problem is for bishop d3, there's knight e2, and you lose the bishop.
Well, I know I'm never gonna put my queen on b8, locking in my rook on a8, because I'll just hear Nubairshah's voice in my head scolding me like, "Can't do it, bro. Gotta get that, gotta get that rook out before you lock the queen back."
Yeah, and the problem is after rook c3, queen h2, you cannot. Oh, wait, this was possible. The problem is after queen d4, there's a check, and you lose queen. So,
Classic.
but instead he played knight e2. Now, this I don't understand why he played this, because this simply allows rook takes e2, and black gets a two piece, and it's a game over. Or if I'm not missing something, yeah, it's a game over because there's no tactic, no checks, no captures, just two pieces down. I mean, two pieces for a rook, and this bishop also capturing the d5 pawn,
Yeah, we
and it's
don't
winning.
we don't have time on this board. I imagine Ronan's in some pretty serious time pressure at this point. I mean, it's the last game going. I'm sure he's
Yeah,
planning on
but why
making
don't
it.
you capture? Like you play bishop d3, right? For some reason, you just played this to capture the bishop, right? That's why
Yeah.
he played g4. That's the whole idea of g4 to attack the bishop with the queen. And then I'm and I don't know what I missed or what we are missing here because this is very simple for a premier section, but even for anyone because this is like a very typical tactic. There's just no other way for queen to go here. The g5 is coming. Queen e3. Okay, just move somewhere on knight f5, and it's absolutely fine. So there's just no way for black to do something after this. He must capture more or less. And now, okay, knight d5 will come, and okay, whatever happens, happens. It's a different game. Bishop e4, you have got. It's a pin, and okay, it's fine. I believe nothing is hanging here. It's a 4-4 pawn, maybe a game. But out of nowhere, he just captures. He just plays knight d2.
Yeah, he's seen tempted by the fork.
And simply captures in bishop g3, and now it's game over. And now he's thinking, but I think it's a bit late.
And Connor did hang the fork to Ronan last week. Although I did talk to Connor, he said it was a sacrifice, not a blunder. So I guess he really wanted to sack the exchange up a pawn, up two pawns. He was worried about going up one pawn only. But
Also, the only threat of white could be to go queen e7, queen d8, and trying to do some checkmate ideas. But even that does not work. Black simply has knight f8. So the sad part about white's position is he cannot even generate a threat. And apart from that, we already know that how many weaknesses or the problems white has got. So even he cannot play like this. You just give check, capture, capture, and capture, capture. So I think everything is gonna fall very, very soon. We have them on the camera.
we do not, unfortunately.
Okay,
They're in the next
I'll look.
aisle.
Keep it.
So we had the camera. We got a couple guys in the distance on the camera, but they're not on a DGT board.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So we don't know the moves in their game. Yeah, and that's the thing is there's actually a whole tournament going on here besides these 8 games. There's a lot more games on non-DGT boards. So kind of how it
Mhm.
works is the premier section is usually all DGT, and depending on how many, the premier section hasn't been that full lately. So then a lot of open boards get onto DGT, but it's not necessarily all the top open boards. A lot of guys like to play on their own personal sets and don't like to play on DGT. And then there's some guys who actually love to tune into the broadcast, like Mitch himself. So it's brutal that had the slit this week because we know Mitch is going to be watching. But I believe Mitch goes up and talks to Nathan, says, I'd really love to be on the DGT board if possible because I'd love to be on the broadcast. And so that's the way you guys in the open section can do that as well. Just
Yeah.
go up to Nathan before the event starts. Say if there's room, I'd love to be on DGT. Um, and yeah, as long as your opponent agrees, it's all good. So it's kind of mandatory for the premier section, and it's kind of optional for open section. Is kind of how it works. So.
Yeah, so it's all about players' choice and preferences. It's nice.
And this is the only tournament where it even is mandatory. That's how we can do the broadcast. I mean, we got big supporters with Nathan and Dane, but not everyone loves to play on DGT, get all their games recorded, and other nights like Mondays and weekend tournaments and stuff. We don't always do it, but Thursdays is our kind of DGT night. So we got the boards, we want to use them, and it's pretty nice that everyone supports the broadcast because yeah, we do know that hey, everyone getting all their games recorded can be a bit of a competitive disadvantage if your opponents can go check you out, but it's worth it to get the nice analysis from Nubair and what else are we doing if we're not showing off our games, showing off our play. Um, but that's also kind of a U.S. unique issue because yeah, in India you guys have database, right? All the games go in the database whether you like it or not. I mean, maybe not all, but a lot. And U.S. it's pretty rare that the games go in database. So
Mm. Pretty nice information there.
yeah,
And so here, like White found the only way to continue the game. If the queen could have remained on the board, it would have been game over instantly with this attacks on everywhere. When this was a threat here, knight g4, g4, bishop d5, and checkmate. So he went queen h2, forcing queen threats. After capture, okay, there are many moves, bishop d5, knight d5, but knight d5 is simplest because it gives a double attack or a fork. Now the only way is bishop e4, I believe. And now black simply can play knight f6. Again, you should not allow this, so you have to capture, and probably both the moves wins very simply here. And again, the fork and the attack is there, so maybe rook d4 is the only way. And if you play rook b3 or something, I think it should be winning instantly. So yeah, this technically it's lost, but let's see if Agam can put some trap in the end game. Or also could be something like this could be a possibility here. You just try to hope that your opponent plays 93, and then you just try to create some control with bishop h7, king h7, and rook d7. Suddenly you're attacking these guys. Okay, there's a bishop d5 still, but some hope you have got. But okay, if he plays simply knight b4, it's game over. So let's see what he plays. Okay, he played rook of e1 in the game, trying to put some checkmate ideas or threats. Maybe the simplest is just to put king f8 or knight f6. Also possible to capture maybe, but not really recommended because it's not good to put your knight like this and create some chances for your opponent. But tactically speaking, maybe it's still fine. He just goes g5. He's like, okay, I just want to go there. I'm just going to keep my king in the dark squares. You do whatever you like. Fair enough. Knight f4 is also an outpost there. But now I believe this allows bishop e4. And this could be a small problem because after bishop e4, now you have to go knight f6. And the point of this whole line is after take, you have got this rook e5 idea. And now the d5 is attacked and the g5 is also attacked. So black is not maybe in time. I mean, he's winning still, but this definitely gives white some counterplay. Okay, maybe even if you capture this, might maybe just win, but uh, definitely gives some counterplay.
why can't you capture on b4 and allow him to play rook takes g5?
Yeah, but that was the position
Oh,
where black would have just
I
captured.
guess you're hanging a piece there. Oh no, you're not.
Not yet, but the point is like this was the position, some kind of a position where black can actually win up all the material because he has got an extra piece, and two pieces are stronger than one rook, so they can attack twice and win everything one by one, and still you will not lose any of the pawns because none of the pawns are weaknesses. Maybe you can call b6 is a little bit weak, but as per the definition of weakness is not a weakness if it cannot be attacked. So that's not a weakness.
Yeah, I feel like we're
So
seeing a bit of a recurrent theme. We saw this with Miles too. Once you get a material advantage, we just need to chill out and convert, not continue to engage in dynamics that you do not need to opt into when you're up material. So,
yeah. Instead, he goes for this g5, and we have got bishop e4 on the board. Knight f6 also being played. Takes. Okay, wait. This is live. No, g5 is being played. Okay, that was analysis.
and
So capture, and something like this.
you can change to another game and
Ultimately,
back to the game if you're ever worried about it being live or not.
I think we finish all the games. That's the
Yeah, but
only game
just
going
just
on.
to refresh though, because if you do, it takes
Ah,
away
okay,
all your
sure.
analysis lines then.
Yeah. So, and the game between John and Den, we saw an Nimzo Indian where taking with the knight on d5 was a mistake, I believe. Sorry, in this game, allowing d5 was a mistake. Just simply playing d5 and previous move, or just capturing on d5, or even here d5 was better than this move. And would have been an equal game after d5. White just took over, and it was all it was miserable for black after that. In this game, the corner game, yeah, corner game, okay, he played interesting line. He got a good position, and here he could have improved his play with knight d8 d6 idea at some point to keep it more clean and simple. Um, but he didn't not. And after that, it was okay. Well, white position was not so great. Rather, his pawn structure was not so great, and it was difficult for him to play with this structure. Eventually, he collapsed. But at some point, if you could have included some bishop d2, or I don't know exactly how, but somehow if would have included some line not to make this pawn structure, not to ruin the pawn structure, would have been better. Maybe castle is possible. I don't know. Knight e4, rook e1, d5, c4. This looks fine. Maybe queen d3 is the move. And the point is you can if you castle, you can c4 at some point.
Yeah,
But
this
this also allows this, but maybe better place for queen than what happened in the game.
yeah, stuff like this is why I don't really like thinking before move 10. Just memorize it all.
And I could have saved the bishop, like not saving the bishop actually costed the game as well. Like if the bishop remains, at least he will have some counterplay or some play. He just decided to sacrifice a pawn, which didn't work out, and then okay, Connor just took advantage of them his mistakes and converted cleanly, more or less. In the Miles game, okay, it was a nice okay, all thanks to Robert for the queen sacrifice. And also his c5 which gave white an advantage. After this, it was just completely lost for Robert, and white was winning. But then again, all thanks to Miles for playing this and getting Robert into the game. And almost Robert was winning this around here, where he could have simply captured bishop h4 and followed this. But instead, he allowed this h5 and some tactical ideas, which and even allowing this was a bit too much. Like he allowed that was okay, but then he allowed also this and also did not capture on it. And this was the even better idea. Okay, for this you need to go back, but sometimes you have to go back. There is just no other way. But instead, he didn't do that. He went king h8 and allowing bishop e4 shot. After that, it was more or less losing. Again, maybe this was simpler, but he went queen e3 and to find out this beautiful queen f4 idea. And this does not work because there's rook g6, winning a beautiful game. There was some tactics here towards the end, but always c4 and for rook a2, simply king f1 was winning. So he decides to resign here. Going into the open section, we did not see this game, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, we might have skipped it. Not sure.
Yeah, so this we skipped because there were Scott and a Norman game. They were low on time, so we missed this. So let's go get into this. So it was an Alapin Sicilian where player converted into French kind of positions if they play e5 or something. But okay, 85 it was exchange variation, and it was a playable position for both the guys where Black was doing better because if you see last 10 moves, Black developed every single piece on every move, whereas White just played some unnecessary captures here and there to lose tempos. Taking pawns like this is not good. simply queen d7 and he lost a piece. This is just a blunder. Like if you want to capture, you can even capture like this. But again, not recommended because look at the development. But if you want to capture, you could have captured like this. But capturing like this was definitely a blunder, keeping the queen hanging, losing the material here. There's no queen g4 check. You can play b4 or something, but what? b4, instead of playing bishop d6, he played something else. Okay, this is b5 coming in. So this does not hang a piece. It's surprising. But I believe this should be winning somehow for black. Maybe bishop h, but not really. Maybe it works somehow. But this was definitely better instead of taking with the bishop. Can I play queen e8 and get the job done? Maybe not yet. So he decides to just capture on c6 and go into this endgame, which is also better because the c3 pawn is always hanging. You cannot develop the knight. And if rook c1, simply black would double. And just see, the black Thomas was playing very, very fast. Like he had like 93 minutes here,
Huh.
not using a single minute till this point.
Yeah, we got to start doing time check on all these games. Calling you guys all out for playing Blitz Classical. It's no good. Even if you win, you're risking losing.
Yeah, and like he just allowed this and 94 and rook c3 94. That is why it was important to just go rook c8. And then you try to play d4 or something. First, you always improve your pieces. But instead, he allowed some counterplay and he did not play 94. That is why he lost. He also did not go 94. He could have just gone there, tried to work out. And now this is just lost. You just play c2 and you just want to play rook d8, rook d1 next. And there's no difference. Even if you play rook c1, this happens. So you have to play king f1. That's the only move. And for rook d8, you have to play king a2. And for this, you can play rook c1 and hope to survive. Maybe this can serve. Maybe he could have survived. But king f1, rook c1 is just a blunder. Rook d8 and game over. Simply rook d1 coming in. So the last chance for, and because this was a premature capture, he could have simply played rook c8 or rook d8 or c2 first. Because the idea also works here. Now you play rook c1, now you simply capture, and go to d8. And if you play first c4, then king f1 does not work because simply you can play something like bishop c4 and rook d8 ideas. Or you can start with like this, and after king e2, king e1, you can try to put some pressure here, or just defend the pawn with the bishop and improve your king.
But he wanted to keep flexing with his instant moves, even though he had improvements. So,
Or maybe I found the best way. The best way is just q a check, force him to go here, and even go like this and chop all the pawns.
like there's no reason not
This would have,
to no reason not to min max, even if you're in a totally winning position. Just use some time, think about it, find the most brutal moves.
he just won the game without thinking. When the game ended, he had 91 minutes, 32 seconds.
So I mean,
I
well
hope he's
played,
a hero.
well played by Thomas, but I feel like you're gonna get punished with that time usage, especially
It's a bit too
I
much.
think Thomas is about to step into Premier as well. He's getting. I think as soon as he passes 1700, he's planning to join Premier. And he's definitely, he's kind of crushing the open section lately. So I mean, not totally, but it's gonna be interesting to see Thomas paired up against the premier guys, and I feel like definitely want to start to train your time taking and calculation when you're going to be playing against, say, Connor or Nathan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do
So
have
the
a
last chance for region was king f1. Okay, we have got Nathan game, yeah.
we do have a strong tournament this month. I mean, we got National Master Nathan,
So
National Master Thomas Babcock. We got Connor, of course. Miles has won a bunch of tournaments, and we got John playing, who's recently was above 2100. I'm not sure where he's at the moment. And of course, Roberts. So yeah, we're getting strong regulars every month. Oh, Dane, of course. I didn't even mention Dane.
yes, I mean, commentating since October or something, and I could definitely see the improvement of the club or the quality of, the playing, the quality of improvement in the quality of play of the players.
Yeah, they must be watching the video,
G5,
checking our commentary out, and that's That's all it takes to boost your elo a few points.
And here maybe just simply bishop e4 was better with the ideas we discussed, but here he first played king g3. Leluna. King g3 and king g7, simply allowing. Okay, again he allowed this. Here black would have just improved pieces. But again, maybe it works now because now bishop d5 you will not capture with the knight, you'll capture with the bishop. And the point is by the time the rook e5 comes, we already hit on f3 with a check. So this does not work. And now, okay, if you cannot play rook e5, you're already lost. So rook f1 was played. Just a moment, excuse me.
Oh, no worries. I'm gonna grab some water too myself. Anyways, I'm just gonna plug the sponsor quick while Nubair's away. So we got chessgoals.com is owned by National Master Matt Jensen, local to the area. Simple chess courses for non-grandmasters. Learn complete repertoires in under 100 lines. And so Matt has ever-growing courses, opening courses at his website for sale, and he also has a Discord server where he supports the courses, answers people's questions. So you get PGNs, videos, explanations for the courses. So check out chessgoals.com, and if you do make any purchases, please use coupon code CASTLE to save 30%. Thank you. All right, and with that,
That's great. So guys, the coupon code is Chess Castle, right?
well, just CASTLE.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're just closing out the recap here, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And after this, rook f1, he played some bishop c4, knight e4. Now I think he has to go here. Because otherwise, Adam will just lose us to check. And after king s2, what's his idea? Like, why he give a check? Maybe he just wants to capture and go knight d2. But this definitely gives white some more chances to save this game. Okay, still losing, but something like rook b3 would have been simplest. Or something like just attack the pawn and keep it simpler.
So in general, if you're converting two pieces in a rook, you want black wants to keep the rooks on, right? Or is it
Yeah, it's
easier?
better black keeps the more pieces because then once the black does not have rook, then the rook because we have a lot less pawns, which also means we have got open files and open ranks. So rook can easily, just go anywhere where he wants, and there is no challenge left for the rook, and he has more surviving chances than compared to in three pieces because these three pieces are works well together. They have got some weaknesses. Those can be attacked. For example, we saw this position. Look, this is a simple example. Now you are simply putting some pressure on attacking the pawn, which will always make one rook inactive if you keep like this. But after the capture and trace happens, after trade of one rooks, it won't be like white will not be how to defend like he was defending like this. He will just go defend like actively or try to create some counter play. That's why maybe not to hurry with that. Hurry up with bishop c4 94, unless you are winning some material by force. Or you can just play b5 or rook b3 fixing pawns and just trying to win it later on by improving your piece play. Instead, he went for some attack and wait. And instead of playing king h2, okay, Agam just blundered. He played king g2. Okay, what to say? Bishop f1 came with a check and he's just losing now.
Ah,
I mean, it's designable. It's not losing. He's losing from long time, but
I bet he's been playing increment this whole time, and yeah, just a slip. But yeah, nothing much to say besides a bit of a lapse there. We do have Daryl in the chat here saying hi, guys. Fun commentary as always.
hello.
Fun to be playing in these games as well. So yeah, Daryl, we saw you get away with murder tonight, so congratulations on your win. But yeah, good job. Keep staying in it and making it happen, even down a couple punts at the end for rookie game.
Yeah, it was a great swindle. Let's give a shout out to the final move, which helped him win the H5 and Rook G1, the winning moment for that.
So Daryl, we'll have to get you into our study group here soon if you want to solve some puzzles with us.
He
But
goes back and to come forward. I like this. His time must fail, but okay, he will still wants to attack.
yep, chess is cruel, so you got to enjoy the good moments when you're on the good side of swindles. That was always one of my goals when I'm playing over the board is to keep my swindle rate above 50%. So make sure I'm swindling other people more than I get swindled.
Well, almost every move is winning. You can play Rook C4, you can capture on G4. He goes Rook C4, cleanest. Just keeping it very, very simple.
Yeah, this one's going to be straightforward. So, is there any other games to recap? I'd say we could probably get close to winding down here.
Yeah. So we did recap of this game where it was okay. We saw the Hayden get Thomas game, and then okay, this game, I don't know what to say. It was like all. This was a giveaway from Black side, I would say. He just like took 95 and then just helped White throughout. Like he allowed first played this, then he captured on C3, then he also played F5, C5. Just give away like throughout. White did nothing to win this. Like it was all Black who made White win this game at first. Also capturing on F1 like so. Uh, just a giveaway from Black, I would say.
Yep, I feel
This game, sorry, yeah,
no comments. Good summary.
yeah. So between John and Baker, it was a Bishop's opening where Black did everything correct until this point, and after this, it was just he just need to play this and make castle, and it's a equal game or a slightly better game for Black with ruined pawn structure for White. But instead, he played F4, and this was his first and last mistake of the game. After this, the bishop stands there, and it's quite strong, which helped White to win the game very easily because always there were some tactics on G6, which eventually ended up happening. And, and okay, eventually Black lost everything once the Daniel got up. And he resigned when the threats become unavoidable at the end. About Darrell and Mish. Yes, it was Mish who was outplaying Darrell for the whole game. Whole game he played well, and this was the game where we also saw a classical opening being played, Queen's Gambit, to very good extent until some turn point. And it was going towards a draw, but suddenly we saw some inaccuracies and mistakes from both sides. Eventually, some blunders from Darrell to lose this pawn. And after that, he was just winning. He got another pawn here as well as he played a5 here. So maybe Black is still in drawing limits, so he can hope to draw this with correct play. But he just blundered with a5 and he lost b6 pawn. After it was completely lost. But then he gave one threat, which White did not defend. So he had some hopes. Honestly speaking, it's completely lost after even this. But then he allowed some. And now, okay, even if he captures like this, it's lost. Even if he would have captured something else, would have been lost. But then he played some kind of king g4, allowing a draw. And Darrell playing rook h1, hard to understand. He had this idea, I don't know. He thought maybe if he blunders, he can win. He would have just gone any of these squares, next two moves, but White did not go, which resulted in Mish winning this. Sorry, Darrell winning this. And now it's game over. Okay, they played some more moves, but it does not matter. So that was a recap, guys, and we also have a result on Hoa versus Nathan after rook c4. Nathan decides to resign, and that's the end of today's
Perfect.
all games.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for the analysis, Nubair. We really appreciate. I feel like we got a lot of learning done tonight. I'm all down. I'm up for that myself. I feel like the more we can learn from our games, the better the club's going to get over time. But yeah, and hopefully some people tune in and check out the commentary after they're done playing. Love to see your guys' comments. If you guys were playing and you're watching the recap, love to see you guys comment down there. But yeah, otherwise, I'll see all the viewers next week. We'll both be back, and yeah, appreciate all you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you see the games and learn some aspects of Nim's and Queen's Gambit, which we discussed today. And best wishes for the next week.